The second floor of my house was on fire.
It still hurts for Maria Chavers more than a year later, the fire that burned her family out of its first floor apartment while she was throwing a birthday party for one of her sons.
It was really tragic because, you lost everything in there. So when you had to move, you didn't know where you was going. Sorry.
The family of 9 struggled. A social worker at some of the children's school, Greater Oaks Charter Legacy, took notice. The social worker told Jocelyn Britt of the school's partner, the South Ward Children's Alliance.
And Maria reached out, and from that we began our relationship.
An apartment, furniture, and school supplies and uniforms and more followed.
I thought it was really nice.
Was it quick?
Yeah, it was quick too.
Chavers then took advantage of the Alliance's programs, including Family College, parenting education classes for new moms.
Stop putting pressure on yourself to get all the chores done. Focus on getting to know your baby and getting well.
Chavers now sits on the Alliance's advisory board, and she's found her confidence to enroll at Essex County College. So she could spend more time with her family and study at home, the Alliance let her borrow a laptop.
I was surprised, because who does that?
Chavers' story offers a snapshot of what's taking place in Newark's South Ward, considered the most economically disadvantaged of the city's 5 wards. When the Alliance applied for a federal grant in 2017, it cited these stark 2015 South Ward numbers: an unemployment rate of 31%, 3 times the state's rate. 45% of residents earned less than $20,000. 41% of residents, 56% of children lived below the poverty level. 36% received food stamps. 25% of the 18 to 64-year-olds lacked health insurance, leading to the largest health disparities in Newark, according to the Alliance. 10% held bachelor's degrees, 36% rate for New Jersey. Only 12% of students met reading expectations, only 8% in math. The USDA says the ward has low access to food nutrition, meaning supermarkets and fresh produce. Census figures show the ward may be among the most segregated in the state. African Americans make up 91% of the population. It's the kind of racial residential segregation that researchers say puts residents behind the 8 ball, sets them up for inferior public school education compared to their suburban neighbors, and restricts their employment opportunities and ultimately income levels, leading to some of the same black-white wage gap percentages from 5 decades ago. The federal government recognizes the battle here and the efforts to marshal the resources for change. In 2017, the U.S. Department of Education awarded a 5-year, $30 million Promise Neighborhood grant to the South Ward Children's Alliance.
Actually allows us to scale up the partnerships we've already had. So we've been doing this work for several years, and we have partners. Sometimes you have money, sometimes you don't.
Barbara Neal is the Alliance's executive director. The Alliance acts as the trauma-informed social services wing of the BRIC Education Network, where Neal is also the chief program officer. BRIC stands for Building Responsible, Intelligent, Creative Kids. What then teacher Dominic Lee discovered at Shabazz High School a few years ago inspired him to found BRIC.
You would get 9th and 10th graders reading at 2nd and 3rd grade reading levels. So a group of us decided to do something about that.
They approached the then state-run Newark schools with a not-so-hard pitch to take over the curriculum of 2 schools, Avon Avenue and Peshon. They feed Shabazz.
They were looking for creative, innovative things to do here in the city.
A few years later, after intensive teacher training and developing a tailored education plan for each student,
Turnaround looks extremely hard. So for us to be able to take 2 of the lowest performing schools and have them have SGPs, which means that they are moving and educating kids faster than everyone else on that list, it means a lot.
Lee and supporters took what they learned and opened Achieve, a charter school. They insisted on strong academics and social and emotional character building and paying close attention to external factors that can impede success. That, Lee says, starts with hiring.
Then we have to do our job, which is to ensure that people understand what is empathy and how do you exhibit empathy.
Empathy to help unpack the ward's statistical burdens that students haul from home to these hallways.
Pretty much everyone who's on the senior leadership team has gone through some adversity in their lives, and I think this entire organization is designed based upon the adversity that we all felt ourselves. growing up in certain environments.
Are you telling me that you're doing things here at the network to make the learning environment conducive, almost regardless of what's going on?
Yes, that, and it's just not us. There's probably a plethora of schools across the United States are trying to move the needle on what does it truly take to educate all children. And we have to keep in mind that here, that we always can keep important, that is, you have to keep the bar of expectation high. If you do not keep the bar of expectation high, it's no point in doing what you're doing in external services. Children still have to learn at the end of the day. It's about how do you redesign your school.
Administrators here uncovered why about 30% of the students were not achieving year to year.
Our founders realized early on in their work with schools that they could have the best teachers, have the best curriculum, but a certain number of students were just never moving. And when they examined why those students were not able to be academically successful, they were moving multiple times within a school year. They were missing a ton of school. And so when they unpacked that, that is how the Southward Children's Alliance was born.
Born to help families keep the lights on by paying emergency utility bills, intervening in landlord-tenant disputes, accessing social and other services. Remember Ashanti Jones? She coordinates outreach.
So we have this wonderful pipeline from cradle to college and to career. And so we want to let them know, like, we have these services, come and utilize them, and we're the community's connection to Southward Children's Alliance.
Brianna Foster meets one-on-one with families as a coach.
A lot of families, sometimes you do have to tug because it's a pride issue. We try to dig a little bit deeper in because we do realize, like, you know, if we do help you or send you out to an agency and you have the rental assistance for that month, okay, now we need to find you employment so that way you can be stable so you won't end up in this situation again.
The Alliance says through all of its initiatives, it compiles and shares data with its 24 partners, and it aims to have an impact on public policy and lawmaking to improve Southward residents' trajectories, a ward that one of those partners says has suffered a lot of loss, and it's coming here to address it. That's in our next report. In Newark, Michael Hill, NJTV News.